today we're gonna strive a bit away from discussing about the uni life and advices for like university life in general, and we're gonna be talking about boarding school. So today we welcome a very charismatic and hardworking person who technically can be considered an RGSB alumni because he spent 4 years there. So Khoa, could you please introduce yourself to all of our listeners?
Hi, Roddy. I'm really glad I was invited here. I'm Khoa. I am currently living as a student in a dorm in Concord Academy, based in Concord, Massachusetts.
Hey Khoa, so we're really glad that you're joining us today. So, as a podcast tradition, we always bring two types of cookies for our guests. So today we have two different types of chocolate cookies, a double chocolate cookie and also a chocolate walnut cookie. To be honest, I don't know which is which, so you can go out and try both. Yeah. Cookie enthusiast, huh? What is it? It's good? You're not forced to say it.
Oh, it's really good.
You're not forced to say it's good if it's not fun.
No, generally it's really good.
Oh. What do you mean generally?
Genuinely.
Okay. You're good there? Okay. So, let's begin today's podcast. So, firstly, it's really important to have like the context for everything. So, could you tell us like what school you're currently studying at, and also why did you decide to choose this school out of all possible boarding schools in the U.S.?
So as I said, I'm currently living and studying as a student in Concord Academy as a freshman. So I'm in 9th grade again. I chose this school because, first of all, they're notorious for their education. Plus, Massachusetts is not really far away from where my family are living, which is in New York. So it's a good option out of the other schools I was accepted to.
Nice. Okay. So I was also actually looking at going to boarding school in the U.S. and I think you kind of know that. But ended up not doing so. So I think many people are wondering that is the application process kind of difficult because the U.S. is really notorious for like a difficult and lengthy university application. So is it similar when you apply to high school, for example?
So I am actually, I'll consider myself an average student. I'm not too smart. I'm not too into physical sports. I think it is a very tough process, especially when you're preparing for it. So, for example, in the first year when I came to ISV, or now you call RGSV, I came there in grade 6 for the purpose of getting more experience talking with foreigners and just getting my English better so I can prepare myself for the US. Since when I came there, my brother was also in his first year in the US.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what was required in your application when you applied into high school? Like, would you need like extracurriculars, English examination and stuff?
Oh yes, of course. How do I forget this? I took 2 of my years, starting in grade 7. I was practicing for IELTS.
Oh.
And then afterwards, I also had to do it again because during grade 7, it was a tough time in my life because I had to change academically. I promised with my family and my friends that I had to get better and more focused in studying if I want to go to US. So I took the IELTS test 2 times, actually 3 times until I got my desired grade. And then I took the SSAT in, I believe it was grade 9. I had to take it twice. Although I did not really get a good grade, I got a 49%, which is really bad.
It's just the SSAT, not the SAT. No worries. Well, transitioning from spending like your freshman year in Vietnam and also another freshman year in the US, what were like some of the major differences?
So, major differences in Vietnam compared to the US is, I believe, the culture. The people there is much more different than what we are in Vietnam. In Vietnam, I feel the community is, I think, tighter. In US, at least in my school, everybody's so close because we're boarding students. We're packed in one school, so we must have some kind of relationship with others. But a lot of the people, they have relationship for relationship's sakes and not for friendship. So it's kind of like a protection for them. So that's a culture thing. And also, as a student there, I feel that like if you're not able to find actual friends that you can spend time with, that you can feel comfortable with, you're not gonna be happy studying in the U.S.
It's really interesting to hear. So, I think that growing up, we've all seen those high school movies and stuff, and have like a set expectations of the U.S. So, is your high school experience so far, the first term, any similar to what we see in Spain?
In my first semester, after the orientation day, which are the weeks that students come in and then we get used to what the school is, what Concord Academy is, we had a dance party.
Oh, that's so fun.
It's called a whiteout, where people only wear white clothes, so and like lights reflecting something, and it's a cool visual party.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And I think that's kind of like a high school musical type of thing. And also, it's kind of like a stereotype thing, because when that party happened, a few other things also happened. I don't want to say this. You might have to edit this out later
Okay.
if I regret saying this, but my friend was suspicious.
Suspiciously.
He had headaches and symptoms of him using cocaine.
Oh!
And my dorm was later not break in. Teachers came into my dorm and they were interrogating the kid and some of the people around him.
Oh my god.
But in the end, gladly, he was not using drugs. He just got a headache.
Okay, guys, don't use drugs at such an early
Don't use
age.
drugs.
No drugs.
If I caught my friend using drugs, I would hit them.
Like, we don't promote
Okay, edit that out,
violence
edit that
on this- We don't promote violence on this podcast either. Okay, so I also noticed that on your Instagram stories and stuff, you also picked up wrestling as a sport. So why did you decide to choose wrestling? Because to be honest, I really didn't expect that from you.
I picked up wrestling, part of it because I really like physical sports. Although I did say I'm not really into physical sports, I meant that I'm not as talented in sports as other people in things like football, basketball, or typical sports like that. But in wrestling, I feel such a connection with that sport, because I found out like when in first grade I used to be a bully, as I would call, and that type of physical thing was taken away from me. The fighting, when I realized that I was a bully and I was a dick. So I do not fight anyone anymore, but that left something in me that I want to fill up, and wrestling came in. It's kind of like a combat sport. You don't punch people, but you wrestle people, and the feeling of you winning and controlling the other person is such like a specific emotion it gives you.
Like the dopamine, like
You
adrenaline.
can you can say that, and that's why I love it.
Oh, it's really fun. We still don't promote violence, by the way, guys.
Yeah,
No
don't
fighting.
be a bully.
Don't be a bully, but wrestling is a sport.
Yes.
So yeah. How did you manage to like make friends and make social connections when you did the sport?
Well, absolutely. Wrestling, people generally say it's an individual sport because it's not 11 people wrestling another 11 people. It's 1v1, but the whole team is behind your back. They're supporting you. The coaches are screaming. Your friends are also screaming. And whenever one person step out to the mat, people will scream your name.
Aww.
And I made so much friends doing wrestling in the first semester that it's like quickly became one of my favorite sports, just above volleyball, which I also crazily love.
Oh, what was like one of the most memorable moments when you decided to pick up wrestling?
In my first match, I got no, it's not my first match, but there's two moments I really like enjoy and I endure. First one was when I made varsity. They they had one missing spot in 190, and I thought I had to fight other people. No, not fight. No violence.
No violence.
I had to compete with other seniors for the 190-pound spot. And the other person was a Vietnamese. His name is Anh Quân. And he's very buff, and he taught me a lot of things about wrestling. And I thought I had to compete with him to get the spot on the team. But luckily, I was so relieved because they didn't have a 190 pounds, and Anh Quân was 180 or 170, and I was the only one 190. So I had to take that spot instead. So I was really happy then. The second moment was my first varsity match. Also my first match. It was against a 215 pounds, so 97 kilos. I had to cut down 10 pounds because there was also no 215-pound spot. And I was super nervous on the bus ride there. It was in another school, and I was so nervous. I was doing anything I could to calm myself down. I was drinking water. I was like praying, and I actually did win my first match against the 215 pounds, which is, I was 184 pounds, so 30 pounds different, 15 kg.
Oh damn, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. It was like, it's not life changing, but in that moment when I win, I was in such a dopamine rush.
Yeah, like the adrenaline.
Yeah, you would not feel this way in any other type of sports because you work so hard for one match that it's such a different.
Oh, it's really nice. I'm also not quite curious because the extracurricular aspects in the US is much different from Vietnam. But how was it like academically? Were you guys learning a different kind of curriculum?
In my school, we do it a little differently, but I'm sure some other school also does it like this. In my school, it is, you have a list of classes that you can do, and it doesn't matter your age or what grade you're in. A freshman can also study with a senior, so grade 9 and grade 12 can study together if the grade 9 is smart enough to study a certain course. And for extracurriculars, what was the question?
I was saying about how different it was comparing like, when you were studying in RGSB and now you're studying with
Oh yes. So RGSB, I'm sure when I was there was not a lot of extracurricular help from the teachers or the school system. But in Concord Academy, there is a list of programs and a list of things that you can do that you can put into your extracurricular, like community service, community hours. They do count a lot, and you're also helping other people to do so. For example, you go to an old people home, you feed them. That's a community service kind of thing, and you can add that to your extracurricular. And there are also many other programs that I offer, like the summer program.
Oh, yeah. In Vietnam, it's more like student-led than in school.
Yeah, that's true.
So now that I think about it, studying at boarding school isn't just like a different like studying environment, but also a different living environment. So how was it like living your first term in dorm?
My first term in dorm, I think it had created such a growth in me in 3 different ways: spiritually, mentally, and physically. Well, physically, I'm buff as fuck. Mentally, you grow so much.
Oh really?
You grow so much because you're dealing with different types of people. You're dealing with friendly people, dealing with narcissistic people, and you're dealing with many type of people. Some so bad I can't even talk in here. I do want to talk, but I don't.
I know.
And from dealing with them, it creates you such a mental difference that, for example, uh, you're so much better at dealing with people. You know, well, who should you treat right, who shouldn't you like talk to. You surround yourself with better people, and that's how you grow better. And that's how I grow in the first semester in Concord Academy.
Cool. Khoa's low-key kind of doing a promo for Concord Academy. Okay. So another question I have is about like living in a dorm. You have to become much more independent, right?
Much more mature, much more independent.
Yeah. So what were some skill sets that you would say that you definitely had to have, like living at a dorm by yourself, surrounded with friends?
Do you think like skill set in when you first came, or when you developed?
I would say when you first came there, what were like some skills that you said, oh, I have to learn?
So some skill sets that I recommend people have is to live independently, moving your own stuff, cleaning your own clothes, buying food for your own, kind of like the things that your parents or your grandparents do for you when you're living with them, right? So that's just being independent overall. But I want to add some extra stuff. For example, when you are there, you're likely to develop a habit of, like I said, better dealing with people. And if you don't develop such skill, you're not going to be able to live as comfortably, because people there's you won't know this unless someone tell you, but there's a group of people that will spread every information bad about you. So be careful about that. I haven't had that happen to me, but I think there are some things that you shouldn't tell everybody.
It's kind of like being like protected by your family and now being tossed into society to live with.
Yes. So it's kind of like social media. It's exactly like social media, because you know when people get canceled,
Oh, yeah.
one thing bad about you can turn into a segregation of who you are.
So kind of like people isolating.
Isolated.
Now that I think more, one of the things that kind of interests me about life in dorm is the aspect of having to take care of yourself. So, did you manage to take care of yourself when you were living in the dorm? How was it like? Was I think
So there are things that I wasn't able to, but I got a lot of help from my dorm mates.
that's
So I'm lucky that I have good dorm mates, especially my roommates. Shout out to him, Ronan, Soryamega. I know he's Indonesian, so it sounds different. Yeah, he gave me some advice. He's probably the best roommate I will have in the next few years.
Shout out to Ronan for taking care of Khoa for us. Um, so we know that the distance from Vietnam to the US, it's like on opposite sides of the world, right? So did you experience any like homesickness being away from your family?
So, yes, of course I do, and I'm sure many of my friends that study abroad also feels the same. So, uh, how do you say this? In the first 2 months, I legit had. I feel very emotional then. How do I say this? When I was in Vietnam, you can say that I've never felt emotional except when I'm feeling happy or angry. But in US, I truly felt what sadness is, because you're alone then. But when you're alone, there's no one to help you except your roommates, but they're still new. You only met them for a few months. They can't really help you deeply, although they would try. And this happened to both me and my roommates, and luckily we support each other, and I still contact with my parents and it it I it figured itself out because I got used to living there and living independently and living alone. And I know that I will still get to come back to Vietnam when I have time.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. And we're glad you're here in Vietnam with us right now. So yeah. Did you manage to keep in contact with your friends in Vietnam, considering like the time of differences? So you get like horrible timing for communicating because it's a 12-hour difference.
12 hours different. It's a big time gap, but I still managed to keep contact with a lot of people, a lot of my friends. Although I didn't chat with some of you guys as much. I didn't chat with you as much
Yeah.
as before, but that's because I really don't have that much time, and I still try to keep contact as much as possible. For example, my best friend, Mia,
Shout out to Mia.
Hoàng Minh Nghĩa,
Hoàng Minh Mia.
he's my boy. I still keep contact with him, still really close. My family as well, and that's really important to keep and stay in contact with the close people you have in your life, or else like losing relationship. One is hurtful, second is disadvantageous. It gives you a disadvantage in life afterwards because the more relationship you have, the more good ones, the better prepared you are for the future.
That's really nice to hear. Now we haven't actually talked much about your experience being in the US for yourself, right? So, what would you consider, maybe let's say, the top 3 most memorable moments, most memorable experiences that you went through?
Most memorable, I would say, my first time wrestling. I talked before.
Yeah.
I won it, and it was unexpected. It was against like a person much more experienced than me, but luckily, I pulled it. I pulled. I luckily I won.
Yeah.
I was proud of myself then. Yeah, you asked for 3, right?
3.
So secondly, it was, I would say, when I first came there, it was still in orientation week, and we were playing a lot. We went swimming. We went to the gym. I found so much friends that I could like actually spend time with there. So there was my friend there. He's a wait, no, Eddie Pereira. So my friend there, he asked me to go to the gym every day, and we grew so much together. I got much stronger. I got much more healthier because he pulled me to the gym every day, and I'm so grateful for him doing that.
Gym bros.
That's true. I also tried to bring my roommate Ronan to the gym, but he's not going. He will learn to go.
Ronan, go to the gym with Khoa,
Yeah.
please. Now your topic. Third one.
The third most memorable time was, I would say, it was the finals week. In the finals week, it was heavily raining. Tree branches were flying around. As soon as I stepped out of the dorm door, it started raining very heavily. So that was a thing that I remembered. Probably not the best thing to remember about, but it's the closest memory of Concord Academy before I came back to Vietnam. So
So, Concord Academy is located in Massachusetts, right?
yes, it's in the suburbs of Massachusetts.
Did you manage to have the opportunity while staying at boarding school to explore the city?
You can. Concord Academy is relatively close to Boston, so it
Yeah.
take around 10-minute train drive. It's a 10 minutes train drive, and you can explore it, but I didn't have an opportunity to do so because when I did have an opportunity, I was either too lazy or I missed a pass. A pass means that you have to submit a permission slip to your teacher so they can accept it, so you can actually get into the city. And I forgot about that. I didn't get to. Take your chances. Every city in the U.S. is distinct, and they have their own type of beauty. I recommend you going around there and check it out, because knowing where you are and where the good places to, for example, eat or spend your time in a city is essential.
Where is the year? Okay, so I also have another question for you, which is that what would you recommend students going to boarding school? How should they prepare? What should they do when they have the chance to stay at boarding school? Personal recommendations.
Personal recommendation. I'm very lucky that during when I started middle school, when I started preparing for things like IELTS, SSAT, it was probably one of the most stressful time that I've ever experienced. And because that was so stressful, when I came to US, my stress level is not as high as I think it would be, because it was nothing compared to the time when I was preparing for my test. So prepare for the stress that you're going to experience in the US, and also learn to study efficiently. I cram a lot, not like Baong up here. She has very good studying skills
No, guys.
compared to me, at least.
I've been cramming for the past 5 years.
But she's still much more efficient learner than I am. So I wish I could do it like her, and I'll try. Probably not, but I will.
We believe in you. Okay, so as the episode is coming to an end, I think that you've been able to share a lot of stories about your own experiences at Concord Academy and boarding school. So what would be some final tips, advice, or words of encouragement you would have for students also looking into going to boarding school?
Going to boarding school, I encourage you to do so as early as possible if you're planning to do college or university in the US. Personally, I think that is the case because I have a lot of friends who read 3 classes a year, like me. I have a sophomore friend and a senior friend. He graduated, but he wanted to do 12th grade again because he wanted to study in the US. So I recommend you to go there as soon as possible, study US as soon as possible, because is where like the opportunities are. America is known as a land of opportunity, right?
American dream.
Yeah, and part of that is true. So go there as soon as possible. That's all.
Oh, that's really nice. Okay, so we all know that the boarding school experience and studying abroad by yourself at such a young age must be extremely difficult, but also a very memorable experience. Thank you so much, Khoa, for joining us today, and we hope that all the listeners of the podcast have enjoyed it. This is the end of our episode. This was the Cookie Talk, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye!